Okay. Last week we started off with color psychology and color theory and discussed that part only. Today I'm going to cover typography, style guide, UX laws, and creating wireframes. And in the end, we are going to do some Figma practicals as well. So what is typography? Typography is a design discipline that involves the use of typefaces and organization of those typefaces to create readable, usable, and ideally user-friendly interfaces for experiences. Typeface, also known as a font family, the word typeface comes from physical print and refers to the faces of physical letter blocks. A typeface composed of fonts. So if you want to be a good UI and UX designer, you should be able to find good typography, use good typography on your designs as well. Especially when it comes to, let's say, for an example, you are developing an application for professionals or for the banking industry and so on. So in that particular case, you have to decide and choose some official or the professional looking typography. And in cases where you have to design an application for kids or some other discipline, you have to select some playful typography where users can read easily or interact with uh, your screens easily and so on. So the number one source that you can get typefaces or the fonts is Google Fonts. So if I open Google Fonts here, you have so many fonts listed here in Google Fonts. You can see most of the widely used or the trending fonts or the most popular fonts is Roboto, Open Sans, Noto Sans, and so on. So these are trending or most popular because of their readability, and those fonts are widely used in websites or the mobile applications because of this readability, and also those are free to use. So you can use Google CD and Content Delivery Network, or you can download these fonts and self-host these fonts in your server and uh, create your websites or even mobile applications. So these are some of the widely used typefaces. I think most of you are familiar with some of these, at least some of these font faces. All right. So if I go to Google Font here, switch on the filters, you can type something and see how it will look like in different fonts. So this is Roboto, this is some other fonts and so on. They have filters where you can filter based on decorative stroke, serif, slab serif, and sans serif. If you select serif fonts, it will look like this. And you can use this kind of a serif font for the headings of your text. And also slab serif is something similar like this, but when you want users to read your content, when you have so many text in your content, it is recommended to use sans serif as your font. So these are some sans serif fonts, widely used fonts that you can use in your designs as well. And they have classified them as display font, where you can use to display your headings or any other larger text. And they have handwriting fonts like this. Monospace, when you're developing a website, especially if you're a programmer, you can use this kind of a font to get recruiters or someone's attention. These are not text, so symbols and the barcodes are listed down here. Okay, so if I go inside one of these fonts, let's select one font from most popular list. I'm going to select normal font, Open Sans. So if we go inside, we have a specimen, which means all the display fonts and all the uh, fonts they have inside this particular typeface. So we call this a font. Light 300 is the lightest version, and this is the italic, regular, medium, and thickness is getting higher when we go to extra bold 800. So those are all the fonts inside this particular Open Sans typeface. You can test fonts. You can type something and test fonts here, and even you can look into individual characters by going into this section. So in the license, it mentioned that you can use this in commercial websites also. So it is a free to use font where you can use it in your designs as well. Okay. Fonts are specific weights within the typeface. You choose the typeface, you use a font. If you were to select Georgia as your typeface, then Georgia Bold, Italic, and Regular would be your fonts. So if you select uh, Opens as your typeface, this light 300, light 300 Italic, Regular 400, those are fonts inside this particular Open Sans typeface. Character. Character is an individual element, most commonly a single letter, number or punctuation mark. So I showed you here, these are individual characters in this typeface. They have categorized them based on certain lowercase, uppercase, Hebrew fonts, and also math operations and everything. So you can use these fonts in your designs when you create designs in Figma or whatever. So if we go to Figma, most of these Google fonts, they have already implemented in their design. So if I select this font face right here, and in Figma, you have all the fonts listed here. So if almost all of these free Google fonts, they are automatically implementing them in Figma itself, so that you don't have to worry about installing it yourself. You can just use the font they have already installed. In case if you want to install a custom font, what you can do is you can go to custom fonts websites, such as, let's say this is a free website that you can get fonts from. Let's say this font, you need to install this one. So you can download it to your computer like normally, and we have TTF right here, and then you can install this font in your computer. So if you install it in your computer, it will show up here as well, only on the desktop version. On the web version, you can't install custom fonts because we are using their server. But if you download the Figma application, you can use custom fonts as well. Weight, height, and size. This refers to the thickness, length, and overall size of a typeface. You can experiment with different weights and sizes and use the variations judiciously on your interface to break the monotony of long passages or text, or to direct attention to a specific element. So you can use different font characters. Let's say for an example, if I want to bold some part of this text, so let's say this is my heading and I want to bold it, so you can select bold. So you can see there are many. Thin is the less thickness, and extra light, light, regular, medium, semi-bold, bold, extra bold, and extra black. So you can increase the readability and maintain the hierarchy by bolding, make the headline bold, and have the paragraphs in medium or regular font. So users will read it easily when comparing to only a semi-bold or medium text in whole page. So make sure to use that as well. Letter spacing or tracking. The distance between the widest point of each character. Tracking specifically refers to the uniform increase or decrease in horizontal space between characters. So if you select right here, you can increase the tracking by percentage in Figma like this. So that is called tracking. So it is increasing the gap between each individual character in horizontal x-axis. So that is tracking. I'm going to make it 0. Alignment. Alignment refers to how text is positioned. There are 4 main alignments: left, right, centered, and justified. So in Figma, we have left align, center align, right align. And if you want to see the justify, you have to click here, and this is justify. So that is justified content. Typography principles. So these are some principles that you should follow, especially when you're selecting a font and using this font in your designs, because if you don't follow these principles, it won't be a good user experience for your users, especially in scenarios where they have to read, where we have so many content in our websites. If your website is not properly structured, it don't have a proper hierarchy of text, or even if the font you selected is not that readable, it will negatively affect your user experience. So make sure to uh, keep these recommendations or the typography principles in mind when you selecting a typography for your product. Number one, keep the number of fonts used at a minimum. Using more than 3 different fonts makes a website look unstructured and unprofessional. Keep in mind that too many type sizes and styles at once can also wreck any layout. So when you do designs, as a recommendation, please only use maximum 3 fonts. So it is ideal if you can only use 1 or 2 fonts, one font for your headings or one font for your body text, paragraph text. You can actually use one typeface as well, but don't go more than that. And even in your font selection, make sure to select matching fonts. So let's say you select this kind of a font for your heading, this text, and you selected this font, this professional looking font for your paragraph text. So it is not matching. Always make sure to match different font like typeface pairs as well if you use more than one font face. Even when you use more than 1 or 2 typefaces, uh, in design wise it is not that good. And also when you launch in your website, if you have more than 2 or 3 fonts, it will affect your website's loading speed as well, especially if you're using Google Fonts. The server might have to send 3 or 4 different requests based on the number of fonts that you have selected to the server. So it will slow down the loading speed of your website or a mobile application as well. Even if you self-hosted them, it will reduce the loading speed as well. So as a rule of thumb, please only use up to 3 fonts, ideally 2 typefaces if it is really necessary. Try to use standard fonts. Font embedding services like Google Web Fonts or Typekit have a lot of interesting fonts that can give you design something new, fresh, and unexpected. So what can go wrong? So number one source that you can get fonts from is Google Fonts, which is free. And there's another one called Typekit, which is the Adobe font service. A number of fonts are free here, but most of the good looking fonts you have to subscribe and get the license from them. So it is a good practice to start off with Google Fonts because it is free, and they have wide range of fonts where you can select from. Actually, next one. So what can go wrong? Actually, this approach has a serious problem. Interesting fonts can distract users from reading. Users can spend time thinking about the fonts that designers use rather than reading the content text. So if your website is text-rich website or a mobile application, is a text-rich website, always make sure to use simple readable font. Otherwise, users will won't read the font, and they will look into the typography like a design element. So always make sure to use a readable simple font if your website or mobile applications, the main purpose is users to read your content and get an idea. So make sure to select right fonts in that particular case. Limit line length. Having the right amount of characters on each line is key to the readability of your text. It shouldn't be your design that dictates the width of your text. It should also be a matter of legibility. So when you using fonts, when you have a paragraph in your text, if your paragraph is going from each end, like starting from here and going till the screen ends, it is not a good practice, because as users, as humans, we only can memorize certain number of words or the characters at any given time in our cognitive memory. So you have to limit number of words in your x-axis when you giving them a paragraph. So we are going to discuss about that. You should have around 60 characters per line if you want a good reading experience. Having the right amount of characters on each line is key to readability of your text. So in this example right here, we have 40 character limit here, 60 characters and 90 characters. So you can see this one is too narrow. It is not using even 40 characters per line. And this one is the ideal range. We are using 60 characters, and whereas this one is too long. So this one is readable, but we are not using our screen space wisely, because if this is a mobile screen, we are wasting some space right here. So especially in mobile devices, when you're designing, you have very limited space to deal with. So you have to make sure you use that space effectively. So this one is ideal range. So you have to make sure you use your screen wisely and give users better readability at the same time as well. So this is too wide. It is hard to read and hard to memorize what user have already read also. So this is not a good practice. Ideal range is 60 characters. For mobile devices, you should go for 30 to 40 characters per line. Below is an example of two sites viewed on a mobile device. The first one uses 50 to 75 characters per line, optimum number of characters per line for print and desktop, while second one uses optimal 30 to 40 characters. The first example, this news website, is not mobile optimized. So it is using 50 to 75 characters per line, which is optimized or the ideal range for desktop or the tablet size. And this one is optimized for mobile. You can see this is readable and this is not. On if users are using this website uh, browsing on a mobile device. Choose a typeface that works well in various sizes. Users will access your site from devices with different screen sizes and resolutions. Most user interfaces require text elements of various sizes, such as button copy, field labels, selection headers, etc. Okay, so when you're designing a website, especially website will have different versions for website, so desktop screen, a tablet screen, and the mobile screen. So you have to make sure you have your button sizes, field label sizes, section headers are optimized based on the screen size that users are using. So if I show you an example, let's take this site. You can see the font size and the button size are getting smaller when we open it in a mobile screen like this. So if I go to open it in a uh, MacBook or the iPad Pro, it's take different sizes. And even in desktop computer, if we have one here, let's say desktop computer is this. So it has a larger font sizes. So depending on the screen size that users are browsing your website, you can increase the size of your headings or buttons or even paragraph text based on the screen size that users are using. So that is also a good user experience. It is important to choose a typeface that works well in multiple sizes and weights to maintain readability and usability in every size. All right, so these are typeface that we can use in our designs. So this is the body text 14 sp, whereas this is the bold body text, and these are all the uh, display text that we have in our hierarchy. So this is the smallest text that we are using in our caption. So there's a tool that you can use to see different fonts in your designs before you selecting a font. So I added it already. Let me see. Yeah, if you go to this website right here, typescale.com, you can select different fonts. So let's select one font. So I'm going to select let's keep Inter as my text. So I have selected Inter, and my font size is 16 pixels for body size. So if I go for 14 pixels, it will look like this. You can see that the font size I selected, they are adding 14 pixel, and this one is 16.8, 20. H4 is 24, H3 is 29, and so on. So it will automatically generate the fonts for different sizes, heading sizes, small sizes, and everything based on the body size font that you have selected. If you want REM value, the relatable values, it should, this one is 1 and this is 1.2. This is 2 times of the basic font that we have selected. So this is the font selection that we are using. So you can even see how those fonts will look like in our design if you select this landing page or whatever the page they have, blogs post and so on. So you can select the font here and view it how it will look like when you do designs as well. Next one is avoid all caps. All cap text, meaning text with all letters capitalized, is fine in contexts that don't involve reading, such as acronyms or logos. But when your message involves reading, don't force your users to read all cap text. All capital print greatly retards the speed of scanning and reading in comparison with lowercase type. So you can see if I compare these two paragraphs, the first one is very readable because we are so used to read lowercase letters. So we can easily read this paragraph, but this one is hard to read because we have to give our individual attention to each of these characters because all of these are in block capitals. So it is not a good user experience, especially if your website is involved more reading. So make sure to keep that in mind as well. Next one, don't minimize spacing between lines. In typography, we have a special term for the space between two lines of text, leading or line height. By increasing the leading, you increase the vertical white space between lines of text, generally improving readability in exchange for screen real estate. Screen real estate is in a screen, you have a space to do your designs, put your logo, put your content or the paragraphs or whatever. So we call it a screen real estate. As a rule, leading should be about 30% more than the character height for good readability. So if I go to Figma, right now I have a auto as my line height, and the auto value is 17 is showing here. So if I want to increase it, let's say to 100, it will look like this. And if I want it to be something around 5, it is not a good user experience. So in Figma, always make sure to put auto. So it will automatically uh, align your fonts based on the typeface that you have selected, and the gap between each of these lines is 30% of the character width. So that is ideal range. So you don't have to worry about putting a number in here. Auto will do the job. Okay, in this example right here, this is a good text. So we are not wasting our screen real estate, and it is a good readable text right here. And this is too much, even though it is readable, but we are wasting too much of space in our screen. So this is too much. This is too tight. It is hard to read when you have this kind of a text. So this is the ideal range. You can achieve it by putting auto as your line height in Figma, if you do designs in Figma. Properly using white space between paragraphs has been proven to increase comprehension up to 20%, as pointed out by Dimitri Fadio. So if you're using your white space properly between paragraphs, let's say even right here, if you have two paragraphs and if you have this kind of a gap between the paragraphs, it will increase the readability. So in research, they have found out it's increased the comprehension that users have when reading a paragraph by 20%. So you can use the same practices in your designs when you have a text-rich website or a blog or a news website you have to design. The skill of using white space lies in providing your users with a digestible amount of content, then stripping away extraneous details. So by having a limited number of characters in x-axis like this, or even having a proper line spacing between the lines of text, and even have a good white space between our paragraphs, will help users to digest what they already read. So if we have all the paragraph all together without much spacing right here, or have a text all the way from left side to right side of your screen, so that is not a digestible amount of content for your users. They won't be able to remember what they already read, and they might have to reread again and again to get an idea about what you're trying to say. So always make sure to give them in a digestible amount of content and strip away some extraneous details uh, when you try to create a readable content. So in here we have an example. So we have the heading here, subheading. So this one is not using that much of a screen size or the screen space, but it's very hard to read. When comparing to this one is having the spaces, the line space, and even the paragraph spaces. They are using it wisely. So that is why this is uh, good readable content when comparing to the left-hand side paragraph. Next one, make sure you have sufficient color contrast. These lines of text do not meet the color contrast ratio recommendations and are difficult to read against their background colors. So this light or the gray color text or this gray color text, it is hard to read even though this background is white or this one is black. So you always have to make sure select a right contrast ratio for your foreground and background elements. In this case, the foreground element is the text. Make sure to select good contrast ratios where people can read the text easily. These lines of text meet the color contrast ratio recommendations and are easy to read against their background colors. This is a tool that you can use to select font based on your requirement. Let's say you want to create application for bank. So these are the texts that they are recommending. But if you go to websites like Google fonts, you can easily see, as I mentioned, the sans serif is mostly used in professional layout design. So you can use one of these fonts, or even if you want to find out what font is other people are using, let's say, for an example, you want to know that what this font is in the website. So what you can do is, number one, you can open browser tools and select that particular font. In here they will have font family right here. So they are using this font, Pensum Sans Book. So you can look for that font in Google, and if it is a free font to use, you can down, and they have license, you can use that font in your design. So it is not a free font, it is not on Google. So in that case, you can or use alternative font for this particular design. So the PT Sans is the alternative. So you can use that kind of a font in your design. And let's say you only have an image to decide what the font is. So if I take a screenshot of this, so let's say I only have this image in my design. Now I want to know what this font is. You can go to services like, go to this website, and you can upload the image that you have. It will show all the similar fonts that they have in their website. So even in Google, you can use it to search for the font. You can use Google Lens as well without an issue. So if you go here, you can use Google Lens and look for the fonts they already have. So it will be easier for you to decide on a font that already exists in a website, and you like the font and you want to use the same font in your application as well. All right. Okay, that is about typography. Now let's do branding guidelines versus style guide. Any questions so far? Okay, let's move on. Branding guidelines versus style guide. Branding guidelines are clearly defined rules and standards that communicate how your brand should be represented to the world. Branding guidelines help businesses ensure consistency and demonstrate what the company is, what it does, and what it stands for. Think of it like a brand rulebook that centralizes the overall look and feel of your brand identity. So branding guideline is something that you have to design. Let's say a client come up with an idea and he want to create new brand for certain business. Let's say tea exporting business. Then you have to understand who are the end users, what is the message this client want to give to their end users, what is the brand is about, is it a luxurious brand or is it a budget brand, what are our who are our end users that we should target in what area of the world. So you have to study about these people and the colors and everything, typefaces and all, and come up with the design. So in the branding guideline documentation, if I show you an example, some of these larger companies have PDFs dedicated for their branding guidelines, and some of these have websites, web pages as well. So if I go to Apple branding guidelines, they are telling that how to use their logo, how not to they use their logo. So this is how you can use authorized reseller logo in a single line, and they will mention you how not to use your logo, their logo as well. So when you do designs, I'm sorry, you have to make sure you follow these regulations that you these people have already given, and use the logos or whatever in the design. Similarly, when you create the branding guidelines documentation, when people, like, let's say you are the designer in the team and you want to send it to advertisers or the social media managers, and whoever create this post, they have to make sure they follow your branding guideline and use the logo or the colors or the typefaces or the imagery in the advertisements or whatever the material that they are creating. So having a branding guideline is the best way to maintain the like uniformity of your application or the brand itself. So otherwise, if you don't have a branding guidelines in place, people will change your logo, they will alter your logo, they will use different typefaces. So that is not a good user experience for users, and even for the brand, that is not a good thing to be, because if you are using similar font, similar typography, similar images, similar logo in a similar manner, it will uh, be uniform in each and every design. Whether it can be a digital design or the print design, TV advertisement or whatever, you have to make sure you use the logo or the typefaces that we already created in the branding guidelines, so that that will give the brand uniformity, or even people will recognize the brand when they see the logo or whatever the branding guidelines is providing. Next, we have Style Guide. Style Guide is a document that the UX designer creates to document a growing and ever-growing, ever-evolving set of design guidelines that arise from design process. So as a UX designer, it is your responsibility to create a style guide based on the requirement or the designs that you are already doing. So apart from the style guide, let's say we have something called well, design system. I will show you an example here. Let's see this one. So in the design system, what we do is we have a principle called atomic design, where we start off with very basic elements in our design and then move on to create more advanced uh, components based on these very basic elements we have. For an example, I have listed down all the icons in here. So these are the very basic elements in my design. So by using these icons, I have created this navigation bar in my mobile application. And by using these I call the basic ones atoms, and these are molecules, which I use atoms to create this. And in species, we have the final version of our design. So I use these molecules I have created in here to create the final design. So you can see the navigation bar is here, and even the entries are here. So I use these atoms to create molecules, and finally molecules to create this species. So that is how, as a UX designer, you create design system or the style guide for your users. So it will be easier for anyone. So let's say, for an example, front-end developer want to uh, code this and create a final product. So he can easily go to this library and get the code for this particular icon. Let's say he wants the code for this one. He can quickly switch on the developer mode and get the code for this particular component without an issue. Okay, that is the design system, but at least style guide should be there. In style guide, you should put what are the colors that you are using, the typefaces, the logo, the sizes of the logo, the padding, or the margin that you want your users to put between the edge of your design and so on. So those details should be there. I will share some basic style guides in our Google Classroom, and I will add some other brand styling guides as well. So if I go to website like Coca-Cola branding guidelines, so this is Coca-Cola Foundation Visual Identity and Design System. You can see this is the basic style guide that you can provide your users with when you create a logo. So this is the primary logo, and this is the horizontal logo, secondary logo. And these are the color combinations that they can use. And these are this is the color palette they are using. So the primary color palette is consist of white and black, and you have to add these hex codes or the RGB codes as well, because otherwise people might have to select the color and look for the code themselves. So it is a good practice to add these colors that you are using as well. This is the secondary color palette. If they need any secondary or buttons or anything, they can use this color palette to create those elements. Color bar. Okay, these are color don'ts. So they are not recommending users to make these kind of logos. So you can also add some versions that you don't recommend your users to how not to use your logo or whatever. You can add these don'ts as well. And these are the typefaces they are using. This is the headline text, headline bold. Text means the paragraph or the content, and these are condensed text. So these are don'ts for logos. So that is the minimum things that you should have in your style guide. So why is style guide important in any product? So it will increase the consistency. So for an example, let's say if you don't have a style guide and you just have the vector files for your design. So whenever you want to send this to advertising company or a social media manager who's handling your social media post, they will create different versions of your logo by creating different colors, by filling it with different colors, using different typography, which is not uh, a good thing for your brand, because the brand should have a good consistency uh, in their materials, such as print materials or the digital video or even a digital design. They should maintain consistency if it is a good brand. Next one, defining standards and usage. So you can define standards such as this is the minimum size of the logo that you should use. These are the colors that you should use. This is the typography we have selected. So that you have standards and usage for your design if you have a style guide in place. And next one, it will be easier for the front-end developers to write their CSS and HTML by referencing all the important information and data. Find hex codes and colors easily. Reuse UI components, SVG files, and quickly find and extract any other asset that they may require. So let's say if I go back to this design, they want this icon. So number one, they can take the SVG code of this icon by switching this on and take the export is as a SVG from right here. So it will give them the SVG code. The next one is CSS and HTML also. They can get it from here. So this is the HTML code and the CSS code. And even if you install a plugin for React.js or whatever, you can export HTML, React code, or even Angular code. Whatever the framework that you have selected, you can export it from here itself without even worrying about coding it from the beginning. Reuse UI components, so those are reusable components, and find and extract any other asset that require. So that is an easy job for front-end developers as well if you maintain this kind of a style guide and the design system library. Next one will help the UX designers to craft responsive layouts that fit the brand style. So if I show you another example, okay, let's see this example right here. So even for that, I have added atoms, molecules, and species. So by using these elements I have, I can create a responsive design for any screen size. So this, I can create this kind of a layout. So these are all my buttons and the cards and so on. And finally, I can come up with my final design like this. So this can be a responsive layout. So I only design this for website, but you can create responsive layouts for mobile screens and whatever the screen size that you require by using these atoms and molecules, so the reusable components that you already have designed. Next one, the social media managers can consult the document to use the same exact typeface, color palette, and graphic assets to create a consistent social media feed. So as I mentioned earlier, if you send this style guide to your social media managers or anyone handling your social media posts, they can follow the same principles, same things that you have designed using in your design, and create a consistent layout, consistent designs by using any of these materials in their design. Logo, the typeface, or even imagery can look consistent if you have this kind of a style guide in place. All right. Any questions regarding style guides? All right, let's discuss about some UX laws. The collection of laws or design standards that designers must take into account when thinking and improving the user experience. So as UX designers, these are some basic UX laws that you should follow when coming up with a design for addressing different problems that people are facing. So these are some of the basic laws that I have listed down. There are some additional laws as well. There are some laws added to the list in daily basis actually, with so much of research and development are going on regarding UX. So at least these few UX laws you should remember and apply them when you do designs. Number one is Hicks law. Hicks law states that users spend more time making a decision based on the number and complexity of the choices, which means if you give your users with more choices, they will take more time to select one of these things that they have to select from. The more choices you present your users with, the longer it will take them to reach a decision. If you have multiple tasks to complete within a limited time, you will take more time making a decision compared to if you have only two tasks to complete. So when you give your users with different options, you have to make sure you only give them with a limited number of options. Otherwise, they will spend so much of time to make a decision, and it will increase the time they spend to make a final decision. So make sure to give them least options when you design something. So for an example, this one right here, reduce the options for time critical task. The more choices you give a user, the longer it takes for them to make a decision. So in this example here, we are asking the question, how are you feeling today? And giving them a drop down with so many options, awesome, amazing, great, fine, and so on. And this example right on the right hand side, we are only giving them 4 options, and it is in a radio box, so they can easily select whatever they feel, and they don't have to differentiate between awesome and amazing and try to uh, think how they actually feel. So we only giving these 4 criterias, and they can easily select from one of these without even thinking about the wordings here. So always make sure to reduce the options for time critical tasks, especially when they are filling a form or whatever the uh, task they have in hand. Give them less amount of options. And even it's in this menu right here, uh, if you have so many options, in if it is a physical example, if you visit to a restaurant and in their menu they have so many options, you will take so much time to decide on what to eat. So, when comparing to the menu with very less options or the very well categorized menu, you will come into the decision in a faster time when comparing to one with so many options. So you can apply the same thing in your web design as well. Next one click buy option. So if you, uh, let's say a user visit your shopping website, he only want to buy one product, and then you can provide them with this buy now button, and they don't have to add to cart. They can quickly pay the amount and uh, finish their transaction easily. Otherwise, they have to add it to cart and then go to cart. There will be so many steps. So you can help your users to achieve their task easily and faster by providing this kind of a buy now button. If they are only purchasing one particular product, it will be easier for them. And by having this Google sign up or the Facebook sign up, uh, we can make our users' life easy. Otherwise, they have to input their email address and the password, and then input the verification code and everything, which will be hard for them. And also, some of the users will abandon the process and uh, won't use your application as well. So this is a good user experience because they already, most of the users already have either Google or Facebook accounts. They can use that to sign up to whatever the new application they have downloaded. Next one, break down complex processes into smaller steps. So you can see here in this navigation bar, they have filled the cart information. They must have added something to their cart, and now they are filling the information, the contact information, and the shipping address. And next one is the shipping, and finally they have to do the payment. So by looking at this particular navigation, they get an idea where they are and what they have already completed and what they have to do in order to uh, buy this product. So that is a good user experience, and you have breakdown this UI has break down the complex processes into smaller steps. And even here in this example, they have created different steps for their design. So that is also a good user experience. If I show you a live experience, user experience, so if I go to this website right here, so I have also added, this is actually for the standard item finding website service provider. The first thing I'm asking is to put the location and the date where they lost the item. And then I'm asking what is the item that they have lost. And finally, I'm asking for personal details and the payment. So that is how you can uh, create steps, different steps, and make the complex process easier for users to digest, or give them smaller steps, and they have to complete one by one without worrying about all the things in the screen. Next one Categorize choices to make them easier to search for and identify. So in Netflix or even Spotify or even YouTube, uh, we have categorization. So categorization, by categorizing them, users can easily find whatever they like, whatever the music genre that they want to listen. And also, when you selecting something, they are giving you personalized recommendations as well. So that is also a good user experience for users. Number 4, highlight recommended options. So in this example right here, in the cookie consent pop-up, we have highlighted this in green color. So users will eventually click on this green color button without even thinking, because they know that is the recommended option. So they will automatically click on it. And even here, we have highlighted, we have added green color text right here. So users know that this is the recommended option for users. So we can highlight the recommended options and give users, so users won't spend so much of time on selecting or the deciding whatever the decision that they want to make. It will ease up their thinking process as well. Okay, we talked about Hicks law. Now this one is called Fitts law. Fitts law states that the larger the distance and the smaller the size of the target, the longer it will take. According to this law, fast movement and smaller targets result in greater error rates due to the speed accuracy trade-off. So in order to avoid that, we can create larger targets, especially the buttons, increase the surface area of call to action buttons. Call to action buttons are something like, let's say, from this example, file a claim. So we are calling users for an action. So that is why we are calling them call to action buttons. Minimize movement. So if you fill a form, let's say if I make this one, if they fill a form, if you place your payment button somewhere uh, so far down or somewhere away from here, let's say I place it somewhere here. So that is not a good user experience, because soon as users click on this, we don't have the next action button next to it. So that is not a good user experience. So always make sure to put all the things necessary in a smaller area to minimize users cursor movements. Otherwise they might make some errors as well. And next one, make some actions harder than others. So especially when you try to deactivate your account on Facebook or LinkedIn, they have made it harder than other actions. So signing up is really easy, but if you want to deactivate your profile, you have to go to your account. Then there might be some another subcategory that you have to go into. And even if you want to deactivate, they will again ask for your password or maybe the confirmation code. So that is how they make some actions harder than others. So these are the examples. The smaller your target is, the longer it takes the user to perform that action based on the distance size ratio. So in this example right here, we have all our content, image and everything, and the call to action buttons are really small. So that is not a good user experience, because users uh, might have to spend or the scan the complete screen and try to click on the button. So they might accidentally click this button because it is too small. And in this example right here, the buttons are large and they can easily click on whatever the button they like, and the accidental clicks will be minimum as well. Next one, large target area. So when users want to sign up, if we provide them with this kind of a form, uh, you can see the email address, password, and even the continue button, even the mobile number and Facebook. Those buttons are large. So the target area is large, and users can easily perform whatever the action that they want to take without even thinking about it much. So that is also a good practice. Place commonly used functions together reduces the cursor movement. So if you want your users to be more productive, efficient, and come into the decision so fast, you can place the elements that commonly used elements in the same place. So in Figma, we have all these commonly used elements in the same place. They have categorized it that way, and even the properties are here, and all the layout details are here. So that is a good user experience from them. This call to action button. So when users click on a particular call to action button or hovering over it, we can add an effect. So for an example, we can increase the size or the add a box shadow to it. So that is in that way users know that they are performing some action, or we are giving them feedback to their actions that they are performing. So that is a good user experience. To prevent frequent accidental shutdowns on their phones, Apple makes users swipe a slider to turn off their phone. And to resign a power off, all users have to do is press the cancel button. So if you have your phone in your pocket and if you accidentally click the power button, it won't switch off or automatically. So you have to slide the power off button in order to switch it off, and you can get rid of by cancel, pressing on the cancel icon. The cancel button's consequence doesn't compare to turning the phone off. So Apple makes it easier to accidentally press it. So even in Android uh, and on most devices, they are avoiding these accidental power offs by adding this kind of a mechanism or the UI to their device. So this is fits law for mobile devices. So if you use your mobile phone with your left hand, this is the natural area that you can reach with your thumb. So when as a UX designers, if you have some call to action buttons, sign up button or whatever, you have to make sure you place your buttons or any interactions inside this green color highlighted area, so users can reach to that particular area with ease. So they have to stretch their arm or the fingers in order to reach to this particular area, and this is really hard to reach. And even on the right hand, it is similar. They can easily reach this natural area. And if they are using the phone with both hands, especially when there's typing involved or something like that, this is the natural area. That is why our keyboard and every other actions, the call to actions are displayed in this particular green color area, because users will find it easier to use, and it is their natural area. They can easily reach out to that area without even stretching their fingers. Right. We talked about Higgs law and then Fitts law. This is Jacob's law. Jacob's law states that when users are used to using a product, then users build their expectations around one familiar product that appears similar. Because users spend most of their time on other sites, they expect your site to work in the same way as other sites they have already visited. So let's say you build a e-commerce website and you put your search bar on totally new place, not on the top of the page, and you put it in the footer of the website right here. So that is not a good user experience, because users are so used to the search bar on top of the e-commerce websites. So that is the mental model that they have already have built. So you also have to make sure you follow these things and uh, give them a similar familiar layout when they want to interact with your website. For instance, think of Amazon and Myntra and most of the e-commerce sites behave. They follow similar patterns, similar checkout processes. Most of the mental models are almost same. This way, user will focus on their task rather than learning new models. So you can see almost all the website, Amazon, eBay, or even Myntra, or even Daraz, any other application, they have similar layout. They have the logo here and all the categories up here and the search bar on top, maybe the banner and some products in here. So they are following the same layout, and users visiting these websites. So let's say you are creating a new website and the people who try to visit your website already have experience in using some other e-commerce websites. So if your website is not working in a similar pattern, don't have a similar checkout process, don't have a similar search bar placement, they will have to learn about your website. So most of the users don't like to learn something new just to buy a new product. So you always have to make sure you follow these other website and their patterns and make users' life easier rather than asking them to learn something new just to buy a product. So you have to keep that in your mind as well. Both e-commerce websites using same size selection option and following the buttons and information on the right side and image on left. So in this example, this e-commerce website, they're using the similar sizes and add to cart button, and everything is looks similar apart from the colors, but the placement and everything is similar. So you find that most of the images are on the left hand side and the properties or the call to action buttons are on the right hand side on e-commerce websites. A great example is designing a page with a search bar. Users are accustomed to see a search bar near the top of the page, often with a magnifying glass icon. So we are so used to the search bar on top with this magnifying glass icon. Even if this don't say search, just by having this magnifying glass, users know that they can search something if they click on that particular part. If a designer decides to place the search bar in a completely new place on the page, it can create confusion for the user. If they want to continue using your site, they have to relearn where the search bar is, taking the extra time. So in this Best Buy website or even any other online shopping website, they have placed this search bar on top. All right. This is Miller's law. Miller's law states that an average person can only keep 7 plus or minus in their working memory. Organizing content in smaller chunks will help users to understand, process, and memorize easily. So even in the text count, the paragraph word count we discussed, how much users can keep in their cognitive memory or the working memory. So in designing also, you can apply the same things. So you can give users with the data or the content in smaller chunks, so the digestible chunks, so they can easily understand and move on with the process. In this example, display information in chunks. This way, it is manageable to your users to remember what they have consumed. So in this example on left-hand side, we are providing them with so many visualizations. Some of the visualizations are not related to each other. So in that case, it is harder for users to look into this visualization and get an idea about the data that it try to represent. But if you only give them this kind of layout, only necessary visualizations, it will be easier for them to get an idea about what the visualization is. This example, toggle keys are limited to 6 in the notification panel, reducing the cognitive load on the user. So in your mobile device, they are only displaying limited number of options if you try to access that settings. But if you want to move on and open further options, you can slide the notification panels. It will help users to get a view of quick panel settings where toggle keys are placed in arrows and columns, making it easier for users to follow. So these are most necessary options, and whereas these are not that important, and users can access to them by dragging the control bar right here. So they are only placing limited number of options. The 6 is ideal. Even here, breaking the checkout process into the step and creating spacing for card numbers. So in this example right here, it represents the physical card actually. So in the front of the card, we have the card number, name of the card, and the expiry date. And users can flip their card and enter the CVV code. So that is the easiest way that we can ask them to enter their card details. In this example right here, this is not categorized. Let's say this is a similar form that I showed you earlier. So we are asking for their traveling details, which airline they took, what is the airport that they are arrived, and so on. And all the personal information, first name, last name, email, payment details, and everything is in one uh, place without any categorization or anything. But in here, we can say this is the item details, these are the personal details, this is the payment details. So in that way, people can easily do the checkout or do the task that they have in hand without worrying about what they are doing right now. So that is a better user experience when comparing to this. Okay, next one is serial position effect. This law states that we tend to remember the first and the last item in the series. There are two main concepts involved in the serial position effect. Number one is primary effect. The tendency to recall the first item is called the primary effect because we require less processing effort in rehearsing the item. Number two is recency effect. So number one, primary effect, it basically means the first item. Now, if I tell you a list of names of some people, a list of 10 people, most of you will remember the first name and the last name I said. So the first name you remember because the primary effect, your attention is much higher when I started the name list, and it reduces by the time I reach the end. But you will remember the last name because that is the last name. So in the recency effect, the tendency to recall the last item is called the recency effect because our working memory perceive temporary information. So that is the most recent thing that I mentioned. So you will remember that as well. And the first one. So you can apply the same thing in your designs as well. Highlight key information in the beginning and the end while placing the least important items in the middle of your sequence. So you can think of like this can be a terms of agreement form or something like that. Before you make the payment, you have to agree certain conditions regarding the refund policy and so on. So you can place the details right here. Most of the time, those are really long, the terms of agreements, and you can put the heading right here, the terms of agreement or the extract of that particular part, and the call to action button right here. So if you put everything together like this without highlighting the beginning and the end, it won't be a good user experience because most of the users won't even bother reading this long paragraph. So you will, if you provide with this kind of a layout with the extract on the top and the call to action buttons at the bottom, it will ease up the process for your users as well. This example, NFX speedometer is on the right side and the map is on the left side in the display. So the users will get an idea about the placement in their game and also the speed as well. Next one, Instagram bottom navigation is home is on the left and the profile option is on the right, and at all the least important options are in the middle. So if you want to go to home page to see the feed, you can click on the home button. And if you want to go to your profile, you can click the profile button. All the other actions are here in the middle. So this is the primary button and this is the uh, last button in the display. Okay, we talked about serial position effect. And we can also maintain task relevant information within user's interface. So even in here, this preview window where I have opened my PDF, I have all the task relevant information, zoom in, zoom out, share, annotation, everything in one place. So even in Figma, we have all the details, all the tools that we have in one place, all the layers here, all the properties of whatever the layer we have selected in here. So that is how they have categorized and put all the task relevant information in one place. So ruler, grid lines, and the uh, slides that we have in this particular slideshow are displayed here. Number two, limit the amount of recall required. In here, we have selected few filters, neutral, ride, stability, and the shoe size. So you can easily remove one of these filters by clicking on this cross icon. So it won't affect other icons. So it won't go away the stability and neutral ride. Only this one will go away. And you can sort them by selecting whatever the sort, highest rated, by price, by lower price, and so on, latest. Limit the amount of recall required. So it is showing what you already have selected in here as filters, and also a sorted mechanism is on display as well. Number three, emphasizing key information in the beginning and end. So if I visit Apple website, we have all the key information. So this first part is very simple, iPhone and what it is about, and they will tell their story, why you should buy this product, what is it, what are the differences, what is new. All the information are here, and in the end they will give the pricing and all the necessary information that you have. So they are emphasizing key information. The first is this one, the product and what is it about, and finally how you can order and the pricing in the end. Okay, that is about emphasizing key information. And next we have Zeigarnik effect. This happens with all of us. When we have some important task to do and when we forget to do it, we tend to feel bad about it. This is the Zeigarnik effect. It states that we remember uncompleted and uninterrupted tasks more than the completed tasks. Okay, so if you create a profile on Instagram, LinkedIn, if you don't complete your profile, if you don't add all your academic skills or the completed projects or even working places, it will give you, or if you don't upload a profile picture, it, every time you log into the system, they will show you this kind of a pop-up that your profile is not completed. So LinkedIn profile strength meter showing one step remaining for expert profile, and even step tracker showing remaining steps. So if you into fitness, if you set up some goals that you want to take 1,000 steps per day, if it is not completed, if you visit this particular application, it will show that it is not completed. So most of the time, tech companies are using Zeigarnik effect to keep users buying to their platform. Let's say, for an example, if you take application like Instagram or even Snapchat, they are, if you don't use it for some time, they are sending you a message. They have streaks or some kind of mechanism to keep you bind to that particular system. If you visit them daily, that is the way that they make money. So most of the tech companies applying this effect to their benefit, but most of the time it will affect users negatively. So Zeigarnik effect is something related to that. There's a book called, I will show you example. This one. So this book will tell you about how they have, in Stanford University, they have dedicated lab to create applications that people will use in daily life, how we can get addicted to certain applications. So those all are mentioned in these books, how they created algorithms and make ourselves addicted to certain applications such as Facebook, Instagram, and so on, even YouTube. So you can read this book and get an idea about how these algorithms are affecting and how you can use it in your UX designs as well. Okay, next one, von Restorff effect. It is also known as the isolation effect. This effect predicts that when multiple similar objects are present, the one that differs from the rest is most likely to be remembered. So in this example, highlight element like call to action button to stand out from the rest of the design. It is easily noticeable by the user. So we have this paragraph and we have some other button, maybe the cancel button right here and call to action button. The recommended action that users should take is highlighted in green color. So most users will tend to click on that button without without even worrying clicking on the cancel button. So that is the recommended action and it is different from all the other layers. All right. So that is the all UX laws that you have to remember, basic laws. There are some others as well. I will add a blog post where you can read all the UX laws that came recently as well and apply those things when you do your design. So I recommended you this book, and there's another book, a classic book called Persuasion. I'm sorry. Yeah, this one. It's called Influence. I'm sorry. Yeah, this book also tell you about the industry and how you can use influence people to make decisions based on the things that you are giving them, especially in the business scenario, and you can apply the same things in your designs as well. I will add some PDFs of these books in our Google Classroom as well. All right, so that is all about UX laws. Let's take a quick break of 15 minutes. And after the break, we will discuss about wireframing in UX design. Let's meet at 10:40. Welcome back, everyone. Okay, we were talking about UX laws. Let's talk about wireframing in UI and UX design. A wireframe is generally a monochromatic drawing that's created in design phase of design thinking process. It provides a blueprint of the page structure, layout, information, and functions. This in turn gives a clear idea to the stakeholders about the functioning and visual representation of application UI. So whenever you completed your research base where you interview with few users and get an idea about them and have a understanding about what their expectations are about the project, then only you can start off with the wireframing process. In the ideation process, the first step that you have to do is wireframing. So your first wireframe can be just a pencil and paper sketch where you try to visualize the things that you have learned and apply and create a layout that you think that address the issues that people are facing. So it is a monochromatic, which means it is not a colorful layout. It's only have a certain gray color layout. Even if you create application in Figma or any other wireframing tool that you are using by using the computer, it still can be a gray color or the grayscale layout which doesn't have colors, and it provides the blueprint of the page structure, layout, information, and functions. So the idea of having a good wireframe in place is to decide on the page structure. What are the things that we are going to put in our home page? For an example, are we going to put a search bar on top? What is the navigation bar will look like? What are the options are we going to put on the navigation bar? It can be a home or a like this. Uh, search bar, and what are the options we are going to place here, what are the other options, and where should we put our product image and the product heading and so on. So those are the information that are necessary in the wireframes. So you don't have to be very detailed. Don't have to write down each and individual uh, text content or the images or the colors that you are going to decide. Just the rough representation of the hierarchy and what to put will be there. This in turn gives a clear idea to stakeholders about the functioning and visual representation of application UI. So by having this kind of a layout in place, a sketch, you can give it to your stakeholders. Stakeholders can be the clients or even your core team members, co-designers, developers. Everyone involved in the project can get a good idea about the functioning and the visual representation of the application UI. So when we start off with our pencil and paper sketches, we can't provide this to our stakeholders or even the client because those are not that presentable. So in that case, we have to do something called high mid fidelity or high fidelity wireframes. So you have to copy these wireframes, though you have already created the sketches, and make it more nice representation or the presentation by using applications such as Figma or even Ballasmic, or there are some other tools like Pencil where you can create wireframes, presentable wireframes that you can get feedback from your stakeholders. Why do UI and UX designers use wireframes? Number one, it saves time. So even though you feel like in the beginning, let's say when users come up with the requirement, you might feel that doing the interviews and then creating wireframes and then finally creating the visual design, it is taking so much time. So why are we going to create wireframes when we can directly move on to the designing altogether? So as a UX designers, when I started my career, I thought the same way. But by moving on, by having some experience, I realized that when we skip the process of wireframing and directly move on to visual design, will affect negatively. Let's say, for an example, when we create our visual design based on our research findings, and users won't like our design. They will give us some changes, or even the stakeholders or the client don't like the design and the colors we selected and the final design. Then again, we have to change the design altogether. So which is really time consuming. But when you have wireframes in place, and when you try to get feedback to them, they will ask some changes. The placement of the search bar should be here, and the images should display right side or the left side, or whatever the placement they will tell you. And they will ask you to remove certain things from the wireframes. So by having a wireframe and make changes to wireframe is much easier, rather than making changes to your final design with all the colors and everything, which is really time consuming. And always make sure to create wireframes first and get your feedback to your wireframes, and fine tune your wireframes, and then only move on to visual design using Figma and the colors and typography, and everything will come into place after you have good sounding wireframes. It also helps gathering feedback. So gathering feedback is really important as a UX designer, because even though you create designs, even though your client is the one who come up with the project idea, at the end of the day, users are the ones who is deciding your product is if your product is good or bad. So gathering feedback from your end users or the stakeholders or anyone is really important as a UX designer. So feedback gathering, you can do this even from the beginning of your UX uh, process. So starting off with the ideation process, after you interview few users, you can gather feedback on your wireframes. So it will help you to involve with these users and get their feedback even from the beginning, and finally eventually create a successful product which everyone like in the end. All right. Next, we have create accurate designs. So by having sounding or the fine-tuned wireframes, you can create accurate designs. So you have a good idea about what people think of about your wireframes, and you have gone through several feedback processes, and you have fine-tuned the wireframes. You learn from their feedback, and you have updated these wireframes, and then when you do your design, actual design, you can decide on the color theme that you are going to use, the typography, and everything will come into place if you have a good accurate wireframes. So it will make your life easier as a UI designer, because you don't have to worry about much of the things. You can put your full focus on the design, visual design itself, because otherwise if you don't have this kind of a wireframe, you have to think of users, think of the functionality and everything when you do the visual design. So wireframing beforehand is really important. There are three basic wireframe types we are going to talk about. Number one is low fidelity wireframes. Low fidelity wireframes are known as paper wireframes, which are created roughly. They do not contain detailed grids, scales, or pixels, but functions, contents, headings, topics are present in raw form without accurate structure. So as I mentioned, when you ideate, you can just take a pencil and paper and uh, create your wireframes based on your research findings, and you can add functions, search function, contents, the navigation bar, what are the things are we going to show, what are the pages, home page, services page, and so on. So, and the headings, topics, and everything, every raw form of information will be there in low fidelity wireframe without an accurate structure. You don't have to worry about the structure itself, but overall look and feel and the hierarchy should be there in this low fidelity wireframe. Okay, this is an example of low fidelity wireframe. This is actually a mobile application onboarding process where you ask your users to sign up, or uh, ask them to go through this onboarding process, and you telling them what they can achieve by using this application. So this is the order: level up, and then we are going to show badges, then streak, casual finish screen, and complete a program. So this is an example of wireframe. We have dots right here, the navigation dots. It consists of 4 or 5 screens, and it has this arrow keys where you can navigate back and forth. And we have a share and skip button, and some text and some description text as well. So that is the only things that we are going to draw in this low fidelity wireframes. We are going not worried about the structure or have the layout correctly or even the font faces, colors or anything. Just the representation should be there. Next, we have mid-fidelity wireframes. These types of wireframes can be commonly used for communication with the stakeholders and end users. Mid-fidelity wireframes contain grid, scale, and pixel. Hence, they are more accurate than low-fidelity wireframes. This makes it one of the most used types of wireframes among the UX designers. So this is mostly used when we want to get a feedback to our designs. So some of the designers don't do pencil and paper sketches. They will directly move on to this step. So it is actually up to you to decide what you should do. But as a starter, it is always a good practice to start off with the sketches. So it will give you a better idea, better creativity when you do the sketches on pencil and paper. So you can present this. So there's an application called Make, and even in Figma itself, you can create low fidelity wireframes, mid fidelity wireframe, and send these wireframes to your end users or stakeholders to get their feedback. So mainly because this is presentable, that is why most of the users are uh, avoiding this first, like low fidelity wireframes, and directly go to this, because even if we create wireframes in pencil and paper, in order to present it to our end users or the stakeholders, we have to anyway create this mid fidelity wireframes. All right, so these are some examples of mid fidelity wireframes. This is actually created by using application called Belesmic. So if you go in here, I created a new account. You can create a new page. There are UI controls. Say this is mobile and web. So you can use one of these layouts and create your own design, or even you can create a browser yourself, and let's say, and create your layout here. Let's say you want to create a form, you can create a form like this, and then add search box or whatever you like, and create your layout by using this drag and drop layout, which is really easy to do. Next, we have high fidelity wireframes. Low fidelity and mid fidelity wireframes are devoid of feature images and written content. They make an appearance in high fidelity wireframes. With more concrete shape to UI components, this type of wireframes contain the complete blueprint of the design and is most accurate and almost similar to visual design screens without much colors. So this is an example of high fidelity wireframes. So I will also show an example. Give me 1 second. Okay, this example right here, this is a high fidelity wireframe. So this website, I created the wireframe before I had the final design of the uh, end layout. So you can see all the content is finalized and the placement of the images and how the look and feel of the design will be there. So everything is finalized. I just had to add colors and the imagery to my final design uh, to create it the final visual design. So this is an example of high fidelity wireframe. So you can even see the typography. The images are not there. They are grayscaled by putting a placeholder, and the sizes of the fonts are finalized, and even the placements of the footer, images, banners, and everything is finalized in the high fidelity wireframes. So you can create high fidelity wireframes after you get feedback to your mid fidelity wireframes, and this can be your final wireframe design that you will do before moving on to visual design. So these are some wireframe tools that you can use. You know, this one is Figma. This is SketchUp. It is actually available on Apple devices, and this is Bellasmic. And there's a tool called Pencil, which is open source software. This one, you can create wireframes by using this tool as well. And also there's a platform called Miro. You can use that one to create wireframes, brainstorming, and even research findings and everything. You can put them in one place in Miro as well. All right, so that is about wireframes. Now let's talk about splash screen. Any questions so far? All right. The splash screen was born out of a requirement for apps to spend a few seconds setting up before the user can get moving. Keep it simple with a short, elegant animation to present your app. Always remember the 3-second rule, and if you go over, show a loading indicator. The splash screen, when you interacting with any of these applications, Facebook, Instagram, or even Uber, uh, whenever you try to load the application, you can see the splash screen in the beginning with the logo and the background color. So the idea behind this is whenever you load the application, there will be some request that application have to make to the server in order to load the content for you. So during that time, they can't show the application because it can be UX wise, it can be really not that good because some of the fonts might be not loaded, some of the areas of the screens might be still loading. So they are not going to show that to you. So that is why this splash screen is there. So splash screen will be go up to 1-2 seconds, and after that, if everything is good in the background, the server request and everything is loaded for you, it will make you through the application. Otherwise, it will show you the loading screen or whatever till everything is completed. And next one, keep it simple with a short, elegant animation. So if your splash screen is not simple, it is not a good user experience because users will think that this is the actual application. You have to give them an idea. This is just the splash screen or the loading screen, and we are loading something from the background in the background, and it has to be smooth and elegant animation as well. And always remember the 3-second rule. And if you go over, show a loading indicator. So it is ideally, you should only take 3 seconds of user's time to load everything necessary. So in that case, you don't have to load all the requests, all the things in your application. Just let's say for an example, you are loading Pick Me application. The only thing that you have to show in the beginning is the landing page or the uh, dashboard. So only that page should be loaded in the background in within these 3 seconds. And after that, if you require more time, you should show them an indicator, because if you don't indicate this, if you don't communicate with your users what is happening in the background, it will negatively affect your UX, and users will think that your application is hung or got stuck. So they will close the application or delete the application altogether. So always make sure to show them a progress bar if it is taking more than 3 seconds. Load the absolute minimum data from the server, but making sure you have all the information needed to show the next screen immediately. So as I mentioned in the Pygmy application, the only things that they have to show is the UI for the dashboard. So all the icons, all the typography and everything should be loaded. Even the map APIs should be loaded, and it is available immediately after the splash screen is closed. Next one, integrate errors into your splash screen to avoid ugly pop-ups. So in applications such as Uber and Pygmy, where their main functionality is the location service. So if the location service is not switched on, you can show, actually these applications are already showing that warning whenever you try to interact with these applications without the location service switched on. They will ask you to switch on the location service in order to use the application. And in some cases, if you have connectivity issues, if your connection is slow, if you don't connected to the internet, they will show a pop-up message saying you are not connected to the internet, and in order to use the application you need the internet service. So if you don't show these error applications, so integrate errors into your application, let's say you sign up your users and show them the dashboard, and internet connection is lost and the location service is lost, and there will be ugly pop-ups or error notifications. The server notification will show to your users, which is not a good user experience. So that is why in the beginning we are testing everything in the splash screen. And if there's anything, any error, let's say if the application is not updated, we can show them error message. If the application require location service, we can show them error message. If it is not connected to internet, we can show them an error message, and so on. So you can avoid these ugly pop-ups. They will see if we log them into the system without showing them these errors in splash screen. Next one, take this opportunity to ensure your users are running an up-to-date version of the app. And if they aren't, direct them to the stores to update. So I think you also experience this when we using an application, let's say banking application. If they have a new release, new patch or the new version release, they will ask us to update the application before we are using the application. So that is also, you can do that in the splash screen itself, because otherwise, if we allow them to go inside the website, and if there's something uh, wrong with the application, that is not a good user experience. You can check for all these during users try to load that application and show them in the splash screen itself without even showing them dashboard or anything. So these are some examples of splash screens. Uber kept it simple, but with a very nice animation to immerse you into the app experience. This one, for continually changing content, it may be better to load images after the splash has completed. Shazam integrates their logo into their main interface seamlessly. So Shazam splash screen and the actual interface is similar. So you can see that how these applications are implementing splash screen to uh, give users better user experience. And this application, the X-Confession application, shows errors and update requests directly in the splash screen to avoid pop-ups. So if there's an internet issue, it will show up here. And if the application not up to date, it will show the message here before logging them into the system. So this application, actually, it is a quiz application where they stream live quiz shows. HQ, and so on. So that those applications, the trivia application or live streaming application, will take some time to load. So because they have to stream some video from the server. So in that case, you have to show the progress bar, and it will take some time for users to get on board. In that case, you have to show the progress bar in the percentage or in a visual representation of a circle or a bar. All right. So these are some top reasons why people uninstall their application. Number one is not in use. For an example, let's say when you studying for your university exams, you wanted to scan some lecture notes. So you download Adobe PDF Scanner or some kind of application and use that application to do that particular task. And after some time, you don't require this application, and then you uninstall it. So that is the number one reason most people uninstall the application. When they want it, they install it, and don't want it when they then they uninstall it. Limited storage. So that is another concern most of the users have. So when you try to capture a video or try to install another application that you really require, if you some of the applications are taking so much of space and even you are not using them that much, you tend to uninstall those applications because you have very limited storage in your devices. Excessive advertising. Let's say you download a quiz application or a mobile gaming application, and every time you want to play another game, they are playing a video or they are asking you to visit to some other page. So that is excessive advertising. So in that case, most of the people will uninstall the application if it is the case. Excessive notifications. So another application, they are sending you so many notifications and they don't have a mechanism for you to customize the notifications as well. So they are sending push notifications every time someone visited your profile, or if every time someone send you a message, or whatever the reason, or email or anything. So that is excessive notification. Most of the people will get distracted when they see the notifications. So that is the reason these people are uninstalling the application. Confusion. You are not delivering the thing that you are supposed to do. Let's say, for an example, in the Apple App Store, Google Play Store, you are saying that you are providing these services by the application. But when users install the application, it is not the case. So that is confusing for your users. So in that case also, they will deactivate or they delete your application from their phone. Next one is technical issues. Your application is buggy. It don't have a good UI or a UX. Uh, that is another reason people will delete or deactivate application. There are some other reasons as well. So you have to make sure you follow all the UX guidelines and create an application that users like. It can be a one-time purpose application or users application that users use in regular basis. And in order to make it a successful UX product, you have to follow the entire UX process and uh, communicate with your users even from the beginning of the design process. All right, so let's open. Okay, last week we started off with Figma as well. We did introduction, home screen, community, Figma design file, Boolean operations, responsive grid, why we are using grid, auto layout, components, variants, responsive designing. Okay, let's go to Figma. I will share the board link here in the Zoom chat as well. Please open your Figma board. Let's create this wireframe we saw earlier. Get this one. Okay, let's say I have a requirement to create this kind of a mobile application, and I interviewed few users, and finally I came up with the uh, low fidelity wireframe. And the next step I have to do is I have to create the high fidelity wireframes. Let's do that in Brunswick. Okay. So this is the device that I'm going to use. And this is the wireframe that I have created using pencil and paper. So you can see these are the navigation buttons. So it means that this layout will have 4 slides. So when users click on this arrow key, they can go up to 4 slides. And these are the icons or the images, and these are the buttons. So let's create this layout. First thing we require is some buttons. Let's use this icon. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we need to have an image. With this one. Then some text. You can see that you can edit the content by double clicking on it. So I'm not going to change it much. Let's say headline, center line. We need some paragraph text like this. And finally, 2 call to action buttons. Share and skip. So this is the layout for one page. So we can create all 4 pages. So let's go to Figma. You can export this layout by selecting it and export to whatever the image or PDF or any format that you like. So I'm going to take a screenshot and place it here. So this is our low fidelity wireframe, and this can be our high fidelity or the mid fidelity wireframe. So high fidelity wireframe, we can create it right here. So when creating the high fidelity wireframe, we first need a font. I'm going to select, let's say, this size. So the first thing we need is to create these circles. The circle, I'm going to make it 40 by 40. 2, 3, 4, and put them inside a frame. So because I want them to be a auto layout this direction. So the gap between elements can be 20 pixels. This is the padding, this is the gap, or 15. Center line. I want my first item to be highlighted, so I'm going to change its color to this black color. So this is the active state of that particular button. So I'm not going to create a component yet because I'm only creating the wireframe. And then we need an image placeholder. So for the image placeholder also, I'm going to create another frame right here. It can be a square, 300 by 300, and background color can be something grayscale like this. And then we need a headline. I'm going to add actual text. And then some paragraph. Paragraph text can be light or regular. The font size can be 40. So I'm going to remove some part of this. Oh, there's another option in Figma. I will show it to you. So if you want your application's text to be within this line only, you can head into Figma and go to settings, and there's option called truncate text. If they switch this on, only the text within this uh, box will show up, and they will add these 3 dots as well. And then we need 2 buttons. One button is share. Font size can be 24. Weight is bold. Frame selection to layout 30 pixels, 15 pixels. Background color can be another grayscale layout. This gray color or this one. And then we have another button, which is the skip button. Center line, but that one don't have any background color, so we can leave it like this. And we need some arrow keys as well. I missed them in my mid fidelity wireframe, but I will add them here. So in order to get arrow keys, one thing, you can create arrow keys yourself by using any of those lines or rectangles like this. Another line. So this is the arrow key. But I invite you to use the plugin for icons. Let's say material symbols or any other plugin. Material symbols is from Google, so all the material design icons will be there. So I want to search for next icon, this one right here. You can place it here and back, the back icon as well, and place the back icon right here. Make sure those two are in line. Okay. So this is the high fidelity design for my final output. So now I have the low fidelity, mid fidelity, and high fidelity wireframes. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create my final visual design. So in order to do that, I need to think of what are the components that I should create. So this can be a component because it has different states. So this is the inactive state. This is the active state, which shows what slide are we in. We are right now in the first slide. So that is why this part is highlighted. And you can even create the image component where you can replace images as you like. And this also can be a component because in the first slide, this can be inactive. So we are not going to show up because we don't have anything to show in left hand side because this is the first slide in the selection. And in the last slide also, this one won't be active. And also we have buttons. So buttons also can have different states. So we are going to create buttons for that as well. Okay, let's create another board. I'm going to use iPhone 16 Pro Max again. So let's name this, maybe easier for you. So this is my fidelity wireframe. This is my mid fidelity wireframe. This is my high fidelity wireframe. And this is the visual design. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create the components for each of these elements, starting off with this button right here. Let's create a eclipse. This time I'm going to create little smaller eclipse with 24 by 24 as size. I'm going to rename it as dot. We need another dot for active state, so I'm going to create that as well. So the color selection, I'm going to, let's go. going to use a color theme that when you create your designs, you have to research about the users and everything and then decide on this color scheme. But just for the demonstration, I'm going to select this blue color as my active color. All right, so these are the two states of the buttons in my dot navigation. So let's create a component by using them. So select those two buttons and go in here and search for create component set, and we are creating component set. So it is called dot and it has default state and the active state. So I'm going to rename this to active. This one is default. This one is. So you can see that this message is showing this properties and value. This variant is conflicting because I have added two default variants. So that is why this message is showing. So if I make this active, it will go away. So we can rename this to state as well. Now our dot navigation have two states, which is active and default. So I'm going to place it here because we will need it when we create the actual layout. Then we have this navigation arrow keys for left and right. So let's create another component for those two. So I'm going to copy these two, place them right here next to each other. Maybe I can increase the size of that as well. So I will tell you how to do that. Let's keep them here. This is left arrow. Let's call it back. This one next. Let's create a component set by using those also. Let's call it arrows. So arrows have two types, back and next. So we need to add another variance. So back can have, I'm going to leave it here. Back can have inactive state as well. So this one is back. Variant property, and we can add another property right here. 50%. We need this to state inactive, and this one is state active. This one also state active. Okay, now this button and this one also should have inactive state, inactive, and it should have 50%. And I need a mouse over effect as well. Let's add that. So we can add state and fill color. I can select this particular color. And even for this one, fill color is this color. Okay, now I have arrow keys component as well. So I have this one right here. It is the normal state, and this is the inactive state, and this is the active or hover state. Now let's say I don't like the size of these icons, so I need another size. So in order to create it in another size, you can again create a variant right here and give it a size. I want 2 times this one, so I'm going to put 2x and increase the size to 48 pixels in here. 48. So this is the size of the icon I have. So this one, I'm going to call this one 1x and the other one's 2x. So this one is 1x because that is the normal size. This is also 1x. All these are 1x. And this is 2x. So you can create it for other sizes as well, like this. So when you go to your asset section, and it shows that you have components. So when you add the arrow right here, you can change it to next or back. Active, you can change the status to over, and then you can change it to inactive and size to 2x and so on. So in that way, you can use that reusable component anywhere in your design. So I'm going to get rid of this 2x one. Okay. Dots, and this one arrows. Let's change the background color. Okay, next one I require is this image right here. So for the image also, I'm going to create a component. I used 300 by 300. Let's add some border radius as well, 15 pixels. And on mouse over, I want it to add a border. So the border I'm going to add, I can edit from here, stroke. Select this color. The thickness can be 4, so you can see it clearly. And let's add some image as well. We can reduce the size of the image. So this can be our default image or the placeholder image. Let's rename it as placeholder. Let's call it default image. You can add the same thing in here. So this is our active normal one. This is the mouse over image. So again, we are going to create a component set image. And the first one is the default one. And the second one is, let's say, let's rename this to state. Now we have this image and the arrow keys. Give me 1 second. All right. Now we have image, dots, and arrows. So for the typography, we actually don't need anything because we can change the components as we require. And then we have share and skip button. So let's create those as well. Share text right here. And I'm going to edit inside the frame like we discussed last week. And the normal button color would be this color. Put it as auto layout. Horizontal padding can be 30 pixels. Vertical padding can be 10 pixels. So it will look like this. So let's add some more horizontal padding. 15. Let's call this a button. Some border radius, 15 pixels, like this. And button can have a few states as well. So this is the normal button, default button, default. And this is the over button. So I'm going to increase the color darkness for mouse over. And you can see there's another button here. So I want it to be a secondary button. So let's create that secondary button as well. Let's first create this component set. Create component set. This one let's call button. First state. This one is default. This is hover. And I'm going to call this primary buttons. This one also a primary button because we have to create a secondary button as well. So I'm going to create a secondary button right here, secondary, which don't have a background blue color. And the text can be gray color like this. And we can create another button for mouse over secondary. So the background color will be this color and the text color can be white. So these are the buttons we require. So now let's create our design element by using this. Go to asset section. The first thing we require, so even though I displayed my dot navigation here in the wireframe, I'm thinking of putting it under my image. So the first thing I require is my image. So let's place my image right here and center align it by using these buttons. And the next one is these arrow keys. So place the arrow key right here. I need another arrow key, so you can create a duplicate by pressing Ctrl plus D and it will create a duplicate image like this, and you have to select this as next. All right, so this is my arrow keys. So select both of these and make sure it's aligned properly and center aligned as well in comparison to the image. And next thing we need is these dots. We have 4 slides, so we need 4 dots. So I'm going to create that. 2, 3, 4. All right, let's put it inside a frame. always make sure to put meaningful names when you do the design. So just in case if you want to search for it later, it will help you. Okay, now the first one, I need it to be active. Now it is active. Now I need a paragraph and this text. So let's copy those two from this one. It will be easier. Up. We can increase the text size of this. All right. And then finally the button. Go to asset section, get the button we created now. Place first button here. We need another button. I'm going to place it right here. So I think we have to reduce the font size of the buttons in order to match our design. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is first select this particular text that you want to change the size. Go to edit section, select all with same text properties and change it to 24 maybe. And we have to increase this one back to 36. Okay, now this button, I need it to be the secondary button like this. First one, text is share. Second one should be skip. Should be center lined. This one also should be center lined. All right, so this is my visual design. So if I open the prototype, it won't show any animation or hover effect because we haven't added them from our component itself, but it will show the design itself like this. Now let's add some animations. So whenever user hovering over or click on this particular element, I want it to become this. So on tap, it will change to this. And for this button, I want to change it to this on tap. And also for this one, when users click on it, let's say while hovering on it, we want to change it to the blue color one. Even this one while hovering. And even for this image, we are going to change it to while hovering to this particular image, and I'm going to add smart animate to show you how it will look like. And even for this one, when someone hovering, we are going to change this one's smart animate, and even here secondary smart animate. So now if I open this, and you can see while hovering it will change to this, and even if I click on this it will change the color to this one, and even the buttons are changing colors. So this one, let's see, this one also should be while hovering. This one also changing the colors. Okay, now let's create other pages for this particular design. So it has 1, 2, 3, 4 pages. So let's create all 4. So this is the first page. Let's create the second page. So I'm going to put 1, 2 numbers in here just for the reference. This is 2. In second page, I want to change the image. We can change it to something like this. And I want this dot to be the second one, because this is the second slide. I want to highlight the second slide is the one that's selected. And in the first uh, image, first slide, I don't want this one to be active. So I'm going to select it as inactive, because there's no way you can go back in that particular case. This one is okay, and share and skip button is there. And the third one, it is number 3, level up number 3. So this one should be inactive or default, and this is the active state. Okay, share button and everything is similar. We have to change this image. Let's update it to something different. Maybe this one. Sorry. Make sure to select your item and it should be highlight the image. So only that way you can replace the image in here. So you can see there's image controls. Yeah, you can change the exposure, contrast, saturation, anything. You can change the image appearance by uh, customizing them. All right. Now we need to create the final slide. So let's put an image as well. Let's use this one. Select the image, replace the image, and we don't have a next button, so it should be inactive. And then we need to change this to default, and final icon should be highlighted. All right, so let's create the prototype for that one. So once user okay, I'm going to change this text to next, so it will give a better idea. Next, even this one next, next, done. This is skip. All right, now if I go to prototype, when users click on this next button, I want them to move on to the next page. Or even if they click on this particular arrow icon, I want them to move on to this particular page. And here, this next button should take them to this page, and this one to the next page, whereas this one to the previous page, and even this dot can take them to the previous page. Okay. This page right here, next button should take them to this last page. Even this arrow key can take them here. Even this back button to the previous page. This dot right here will take them to previous page. And this dot, the first dot, will take them to the very first page. All right. Now, when they click done, we have to load the landing page. So we are going to design it next week when we continue. And even here, this one should take them to this particular page, and all these dots should take them to appropriate pages. This one to the first page, this one to the second page, this one to the third page. So we created this is not one. And if they press the skip button in any of these designs, we are going to skip them to the dashboard. So right now I don't have a dashboard. Let's create a blank page for the dashboard. It will be easy. Selected iPhone 16 Pro Max. On this dash. Let's create a splash screen as well because we discussed about it today. Let's create a small logo for it. So this is our splash screen and this is the logo. This is the dashboard. So flow starting point would be here. Rename as onboarding. Splash screen. We'll take them to this particular screen. I want it to take them after delay. Let's add 800 milliseconds. It's fine. Smart animate. Now then, if they click skip in one of these elements, I will take them to dashboard directly. Okay, let's play our design and see how it will look like. You can see it's changing from the splash screen to this. And if I click on this, okay, we don't have to click this. If I click on this, it will change it to the next screen. And even in the first one, we are going to click next button. And once we click done, it should display dashboard as well. So dashboard is displayed. Again, if we skip, it will also display the dashboard. And you can go back by clicking these buttons. Next, next, next. So that is how you can create a click-through prototype by using Figma. So I invite you to create this kind of a prototype with these screens by creating these components yourself. If you have any questions during you creating this, you can ask on WhatsApp group chat. So next week, what we're going to do is next week I will give you the requirement for the final project that you have to submit. It is something similar to this in a different scenario where you have to do some small research as well. It is actually I'm only giving you 1 week. So from next week, you have time till 1 week to submit your designs, and on the final week of our class we are going to discuss about your designs. You have to present your designs and I will ask you a few questions regarding your designs to uh, get an idea about what was your design thinking process and everything. So is everything clear? Do you have any questions regarding Figma or anything we discussed today? Diniti, any questions? Ashan?
Not at the moment.
Okay. Himashi?
No, sir, all clear.
Okay. How about Tilan?
No, no, no.
Okay. Vidura, how about you? All right. So let's meet next week. I will upload the material for last week and this week on Google Classroom. I will add some recommended reading as well. So please try to replicate this design. And if you have any questions, please ask on group chat. Have a nice day then. Bye bye.